Have you ever heard anyone say absence makes the heart grow fonder? Wrong.
Absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. Proximity, seeing somebody on a regular basis, makes the heart grow fonder.
In this video, I'm going to break down the 30-60-90 rule that I started to do in one of my other videos, but I'm going to go much deeper, and I'm going to show you how an affair in your relationship is probably your own fault. Let me start with painting a statistical picture for you. According to a survey from brides.com, the survey indicates that approximately 74% of married men would have an affair if they knew they would never get caught. That's married men. That's not even single men. Guys, that is 3/4 of all men. Do the math. That's 74 out of 100. That's 7.5 out of 10. Now, that same study showed an interesting fact about women. The study focusing on married women found that 67% expressed a desire for more passion and romance outside their marriage. You wouldn't believe that if you didn't see it in black and white, now would you? Let me be clear about something. Just because a woman wants more passion and romance doesn't necessarily mean that she's looking for it to become physical. The disconnect happens when they don't realize that 75 out of 100 men do want it to become physical. So let me show you, using the 30-60-90 rule, how this is more than likely your own fault if this happens in your relationship. Let's begin with 30 minutes a day or less of one-on-one, actually paying attention to each other time with your spouse or your significant other. If you are spending less than 30 minutes a day actually talking to each other and sharing things together, your relationship is guaranteed to be headed downward. And here's why. It's because women, unlike men, run on emotion. Men are generally looking for something physical, something exciting. Women need an emotional connection. And if you as a guy are not giving her that emotional connection, she's going to get it, just not from you. And this is where the weaving of the basket comes together. Speaking in generalities, men don't need an emotional connection to become physical. The flip side of that is that in a general sense, most women require an emotional connection before they will allow anything to go further, especially something physical. So if you are giving them 30 minutes or less every single day of your undivided, actual emotional attention, she is guaranteed to get it somewhere, because every human has needs and people are different. Women need emotional connection. So they're going to get it from you or they're going to get it somewhere else. In my last video, I showed you documentation that 85% of all affairs come from the workplace. And the reason why is they're not only spending 30 minutes together, they're spending 8+ hours together. And anytime you have a shared goal, anytime you have a shared project that you're moving towards, you will become bonded to the person that you're sharing that goal with and sharing that project with. Look at this video. When is the last time you saw your spouse or your significant other keeping eye contact with you and laughing uncontrollably because you're just sharing something about your life? This happens every single day in the workspace because people put on their best face at work. They always ask about each other's family, about their day, and they share things they think are funny, and they share things that they think are sad, and they become more connected the more minutes that they spend together. So now what happens if it's 60 minutes a day? At 60 minutes a day, undivided emotional attention. In other words, you are not using your phone and going, no. Undivided listening and participating in the conversation. If you can do that for 60 minutes a day, and it sounds like a long time, but it's not. Most people have a longer commute by the time you combine going to work and coming home. Most people have a longer commute than that. So 60 minutes a day of you actually being emotionally available and participating in a conversation, showing interest in their day, and even hopefully maybe working on a project together. I don't care if it's painting the spare bedroom, putting in some carpet, choosing new drapes, talking about putting in a garden in the backyard. It doesn't matter what it is. If you don't have a shared project, then that bonding from the shared project will likely come from work. But 60 minutes a day will likely at least maintain your relationship. That does not mean that your significant other will not elicit those emotional attachments at work, because they will. So you want that 60 minutes, if that's all you can get, you want it to be the best quality as possible. And even then, you're likely in trouble. Look at this video. Imagine these are your significant others working together. Look at the laughter. Look at what they're talking about. Watch how they look at each other. He's looking at her. Look at the way that she's giggling at everything he's talking about. Watch the way that she looks at him. Look at her eyes as she looks at him. Now watch him point to the screen. Watch it again. He's going to point to the screen, but look where her eyes are. She's not looking at what he's pointing at because she has an attachment to him. When is the last time she looked like that at you? This is because people bond over projects when they spend time together. Absence does not make the heart grow fonder. That comes from the 1st century BC, and eventually in the mid-1800s, it found the exact form that you hear today, which is absence makes the heart grow fonder. Nothing could be further from the truth. It used to be true when people would pair bond, and then if they had to go off to war, the person waiting at home would literally wait for them, and they would miss them. That doesn't happen anymore. Ever since the advent of social media, of dating apps, and the good old internet, no one is alone anymore. So while you're away hoping that your absence is making that person miss you, someone else is sliding into their life and getting them to become emotionally attached to them. Now let's look at what happens at 90 minutes per day. If you spend 90 minutes per day of looking at each other, talking to each other back and forth, and sharing some sort of a purpose, not just hollering about the garbage or not just talking about the kids' grades, things like that. That's business stuff that can be taken care of separately. You need something that you both enjoy that's a shared goal, and you must have good emotional conversation, because at 90 minutes a day or more, your relationship will likely not plummet. It will likely not just sort of stay still. It will likely begin to build. But also, this does not negate everything else that I told you that happens where they're spending 8+ hours a day. Remember that 67% of all married women would love to have more romance or passion even outside their marriage. And that, again, doesn't mean necessarily physical, but it does mean an emotional connection. And guess who is more than happy to provide that for them in the workspace? That's right, guys. And remember that 74 out of every 100 men, that's 74%, want to find something physical at the workplace. They will use the emotional connection, the laughing at stories, the sharing about the kids, the talking about, oh, I would never treat you like that. Oh, you guys argued about that? That's really too bad. I would never, ever argue with you over something like that. And as they're building brownie points, her defenses are coming down because you're building an emotional bond. The worst part is if they're doing any team building exercises or any type of corporate event outside of the actual work hours where the spouse is not invited. This is certain and sure problems. As I've said before, if this happens in your relationship, it's more than likely because you are not personally paying attention to the relationship in a way that you're supposed to. You might be on your phone, you might be playing video games like a child, or you might be distracted by other things. Guys' night out, girls' night out, how does that build your relationship? All I can say is if this happens, you were warned.